we really don't know what the real RJ Barrett is. Like, we've gotten the absolute highest of highs for performances like the one we got against the Warriors. Hyper efficient, high scoring game. And then we have games like this against the Jazz where he struggles to score, he's missing layups, he's not being effective on defense, and it's tough to have him out there on the floor. So if this sort of honeymoon phase with him and Quickley is ending, what is going to be the norm to expect from RJ Barrett? And like, what are the opinions on him around the league? There's actually a really good clip from Carmelo Anthony that we're going to take a look at as well for RJ Barrett. Like I said, the 2 of 9 performance here. I don't want to overreact again to this. 2 of 9, 4 points, minus 16 in the game. Raptors got obliterated. 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 3 blocks. 3 blocks actually pretty impressive, but the 2 turnovers to go with it. RJ looked bad. If you were watching this game, you knew something, but like things were not going well for RJ Barrett. It wasn't just like you check the box score later and go, wow, he was this bad. No, you could absolutely tell here. And his defense didn't help with the entire situation. The Raptors losing 145 to 113. That is the most points the Raptors have allowed in a basketball game since 2009. That is a top 3 most points allowed by the Raptors in franchise history. Just an absolute disaster of a game against the Utah Jazz this week. And it wasn't RJ Barrett's best performance. But we have seen, I think, both ends of the spectrum as far as RJ Barrett is concerned. So is that going to be the norm going forward? You don't know what to expect out of RJ Barrett, or is the norm going to be settling somewhere in the middle? Well, in this game in particular, once again, there are those excuses for RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley. The Raptors were on the 6th leg of their West Coast road trip. These guys had gotten traded to the Raptors 2 weeks prior, so what a whirlwind that must have been to get traded out of nowhere. And leading up to that trade happening, RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley were on a road trip with the New York Knicks. So they have not really been settled for a long while here. And you could really see the fatigue settling into these guys who are both very, very poor in this game against the Jazz. But for RJ in particular, it was very uncharacteristic as well, the misses that were going down. I mean, his shooting has been one of the big things that's aided this really nice stretch of games for him. But where he's seen a huge difference is his 2-point percentage, and he's just missing at the rim here. Granted, it's a difficult matchup. They've got big players. Walker Kessler was a very large feature in this game. Just the rim protection in general from the Utah Jazz made this like borderline impossible for the Raptors to play. They didn't do a good enough job of working out ways to get around these issues that we knew would be present for the Jazz. We knew they'd have good rim protection, and the Raptors just didn't figure it out. But even still, RJ Barrett still had his looks down low and wasn't capitalizing. Like, there was a couple layups at least where he's there. I'm like, okay, gonna score now, gonna end the drought. And he didn't, and he had 0 points at halftime. So I bring up this conversation because it's actually a pretty interesting story that went down on I don't even know what this was, but it's a podcast with Carmelo Anthony, and he was talking specifically about RJ Barrett, and I wanted to listen in and see his thoughts, and I think you should as well.
A bland player, bro.
Yeah.
It's just like it's
Regular.
it's not. That's not a shot. That's not no disrespect.
no.
It's kind of a shot, though. Like, it's kind of a shot.
Just a lot of people. I ask a lot of people that who are Knicks fans and see what they say, and it's just like he's just not.
Bro.
He's good. He get it done sometimes, but it's not an
Even when you
exciting
talk.
player. Like, you don't know if he got 4 or 26.
Exactly.
I don't really understand what he means by that. He's not an exciting player. Like, what would classify as an exciting player? I feel like Knicks fans, oh boy. I feel like Knicks fans are still kind of stuck in the early 2000s where, like, you got to be playing ISO in mid-range, playing a super inefficient brand of basketball. Well, that's more exciting. I don't know. I think, like, there's reason to criticize RJ Barrett, him not being an exciting player, him being bland. I don't really think is one of them.
He's just going to the rack crazy every time lefty, and then the person.
Well, he does. What is his game? Yeah, the drives all left to the rim. Somehow finds a way to score a lot of the time, but a slightly one-dimensional.
Personality too. It's just like
Bland.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I
But he
remember,
home now. He home, so he might be good.
He's good because he's in Canada. He's in the
I don't
crib.
think RJ leaving has something to do with it. Maybe, but I don't think it had
More
anything to
touches,
do with
though.
it because OG could do the same thing RJ doing.
I saw this earlier. What is he talking about? OG could do the same thing RJ's doing. If OG could listen, like OG and RJ Barrett are completely different players. If OG could score like RJ does, like I know RJ's inefficient, but if OG could get to the rim as well as RJ Barrett does, he would, and he'd be so much better. Like I love OG, but like his ability to attack the rim, to score, to create is just nowhere near where RJ Barrett is. Now, OG does all these other things so much better, but OG is not scoring like this. OG's not doing the same thing RJ Barrett's doing as far as scoring is concerned.
He just don't demand it the way that RJ demanded to be a part of the offense.
When I listen to people talk about OG Anunoby, it's strange because they probably have never spoken or watched OG in their entire life. And now all of a sudden they have to talk about him because he's on the Knicks, like in this situation here. OG doesn't demand it. Like, okay, OG's better at like maybe better off ball.
It's like OG is cool, sitting on the wing
He's
and
okay
moving
playing
around and
off
cutting
ball.
and waiting for somebody to swing it to him and knock down a three.
But the saying he doesn't demand it, there were a ton of reports coming out from OG's camp while he was on the Raptors that he wanted a bigger role and wanted to do more for a team. Is OG coming around to maybe what is best for his game, which is a less is more approach? Sure, but I assure you OG wants to be a part.
He's still gonna go play defense, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whereas RJ, if he gotta score 20. You know what I'm saying? So where that 20 is gonna come in at? Your 20, 23, 24 is the third option on that team.
Yeah.
So now you feel like I'm putting up 24. I'm the third option. I ain't really getting the, you know what I mean? Like, man.
He kind of just said nothing there and then said, you know what I mean? Like, what is his point?
You know what I mean? Like,
what point is he even trying to make?
I ain't really getting the, you know what I mean?
I really get. This conversation was tough to get
Like,
through, but
man.
we're almost done.
I gotta go.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he probably was feeling that. Like, I'm ready to.
Ready to dip up out of
Yeah,
here.
I'm sure he was questioning it.
Well, okay. The things I agree with here, RJ Barrett was probably ready to take on a new role. I understand. I don't think Carmelo Anthony's assessment of OG Anunoby and RJ Barrett is very accurate, but just in general, Knicks fans and Knicks fan base, I think these two did a very poor job of illustrating the sentiment about RJ Barrett and his time with the New York Knicks, but big part of RJ Barrett's game, like his scoring. His scoring is his game. He puts up like near 20 points per game. He's not a terrific passer. He has not been a terrific shooter in his career. He has the body to be a great defender. That hasn't been terrific. But I don't know. He mentioned specifically like OG Anunoby's defense and how he's always going to be locked in on defense. RJ Barrett's not a great defender. Not very good at that end of the ball, that end of the floor, but I wouldn't say his demeanor ever looked off to me. He always looked engaged. He always looked like he'd been hustling. And again, going back to the point I made earlier on in the stream, or in earlier on in this segment here, we don't really know what the status quo is for RJ Barrett right now with the Raptors because we've seen, like at the very least, there's been the hustle there from the player. He's been playing really well, though. Is it because he's playing well that he's more engaged on defense? He's just feeling up about himself? Is he feeling really good about himself, more engaged? Or are there going to be more of these not-so-great games where he's not as engaged as a result of his shots just not falling at the clip that he wants it to? A bland player in general, though, I mean, I'm not so sure about that. He does a great job of getting to the rim. Like, I think his best trait is his ability to create shots for himself, but still a little bit inefficient in those areas once he gets there. He's 23 years old. Hopefully that stuff can start to improve here, but the overall assessment made by Carmelo Anthony on RJ Barrett's game just seemed wildly inaccurate to me. And it's once again, it just seems like it's somebody who doesn't really know much about OG Anunoby. Like saying OG could do what RJ Barrett does, he just chooses not to. Trust me, that's not the case. I think Knicks fans will be maybe like a few years behind Raptors fans here. We all wanted OG to have that bigger role, take on a different approach offensively. And we always felt like the leap is coming, the offensive leap is coming. It never came. OG is still a terrific player, obviously, and Knicks fans are learning that here. But now they're seeing OG. They're probably thinking, well, he can make a leap offensively. We start to give him the ball in isolation, mid-range, let him attack the rim. He can probably take a leap. Knicks fans might be a little bit later to the realization that that isn't going to happen than Raptors fans are because they haven't been following OG his entire career. They don't know much about him. They don't know enough about him. So RJ's handling allows him to be this scorer. OG's three-point shooting and overall role allow him to be such a terrific player on offense. His handles, listen, if he had them and he could score like RJ does, he would. So completely different players. OG's a better player for sure. But RJ Barrett, he's polarizing. Polarizing opinions from fans. Polarizing player in general. That's just the RJ Barrett experience, and the Raptors are signed up for it. This whole time in Toronto could go a lot of ways. He could be extraordinary for the Raptors. He could be not so great for the Raptors. And neither of those outcomes would surprise me. If the Raptors put in the work for development, he puts in the work to improve his game, then we could see something special with RJ Barrett coming back home to Toronto. It's tough.